Okay, now that my camera is in focus, I'm gonna take my glasses off and hope it stays that way. So if there were things that I wish I knew before learning German, it would definitely have a lot to do with the difficulties that I face and the mistakes that I always make. But I think it equally is part of, like, you know, having to shed my, my beliefs constantly that it's just like English, or shedding other people's beliefs that it's an ugly language or that it's too difficult or any of these things. It's very hard to sort of transform your mindset once you already have so many implanted ideas about a language, because if you walk in thinking that something is hard, then it must be hard. It's going to be hard. So today I prepared a video, maybe like 6 to 7 things that I wish I knew before learning German. So whether that's like grammatical features, things that I would feel during the German learning process, any of it. So definitely right off the bat, one thing that I wish I knew before starting to learn German was that sentence inversion exists, or like what is it in general, because in German, when you say certain words, or if you say certain types of phrases, the sentence kind of goes backwards than what it would be in English. So for example, I don't know if I have time. Ich weiß nicht, ob ich Zeit habe. So word for word, if you translated that back to English, it would be, I don't know if I time have. See, it feels so like unnatural to say it in English that I stutter. So there's a lot of these sort of trigger words, like wenn, ob, time phrases. So if you say like, im Winter habe ich mehr Zeit, I have more time in winter. But the thing is about sentence inversion is that you don't get introduced to it until you're already like way too deep in. So it's like, okay guys, you remember everything that you've learned? Move that out of the way, because here's the word wenn, and you're like, oh. So it's like you can't back out on it. Yeah. It's easy to get a feel for it once you have enough speaking practice, but initially it just feels like kind of a piece puzzle where you're like figuring out, oh, so the verb is supposed to go all the way back here. What about the pronoun? Where's my kids? Definitely feels clumsy when you first start speaking like that, but now it feels very normal to me. And the second thing is that grammar is a must-have. Some people say in their language learning tips, there are like some phony language coaches out there that say like, you don't need to study grammar to master a language, but with German, you are going to have a very hard time getting used to how people speak and reaching a high level if you do not put some type of focus on grammar. And I will swear on that, because it just doesn't seem logical unless you see it on paper and see that there is a pattern. I personally think that German has very logical grammar. You just have to know like what mechanisms trigger what ending and so forth. So declension has become very easy once I started studying with this book, and I plug it in every single video that I make about German. It's called German Grammar Drills. It is by Ed Zwick. This is like the 4th edition, I think. Doing grammar drills might feel boring. You might not like correcting them. You might not like being told that you're not the best at something, but studying German grammar definitely humbles you, but it also gives you a good sense of security. So, and just building on that, I think in general, repetition is way more important in German than in other languages, because there are so many small things that change the entire sentence. You need to make it feel natural, and I feel like the only way to do that is through repetition. So grammar, repetition definitely go hand in hand. It's not that intimidating if you have like a guide, like a book, so instead of just sharing memes about it all the time, you could be spending that time studying the data. Okay, and this next one is kind of weird to talk about because I kind of blew my own mind when I realized it. The same things that are difficult for people learning English are the same things that I find difficult when I learn German, namely prepositions and separable verbs. There are so many prepositions in English and they often do not make sense, so you're like on the plane even though you're not physically like riding the top of the airplane. And I think that same kind of confusion is with me when I think about German prepositions, because there's a lot of confusion with the Wechselpräpositionen, so like cause different changes in the cases based on if there's like motion involved. So for example, if we're talking about an den versus an dem, it's kind of the same difference between in and into. It involves motion. It's weird, And I think it's harder to realize when you're studying a language that, is like a father language to yours. Another example is separable verbs. So in English, we have phrasal verbs. So like it depends where the preposition is going to go. Do you say, I'm going to take out the trash, or I'm going to take the trash out? Personally, I think it sounds more natural to say take out the trash. Do I have an idea why? No. In German, I have this problem with separable prefix verbs, so like der Zug kommt 11 Uhr an, but then I don't know when to say like wenn ich ankomme, for example. So I don't know when the preposition should be separate from the verb and when it just should be together. So I'm like, wow, I am having the same problem that my English students have. And it has been super humbling. I have to admit, it has been very humbling. So yeah. So next, I would have loved to know before learning German that it is more time intensive than any of the other languages that I speak. Mainly for a couple of reasons. One being that there are not a lot of German speakers in the United States, whereas with Spanish, I live in Florida and I have the opportunity to speak Spanish like in old jobs that I had, or I had a ton of Latino friends at school and things like that, so it's very common. But with German, I have to actively take lessons, find language partners, and just generally, it is so hard to find people to speak German with sometimes unless you go to the country. On Hello Talk, for example, I would post like something in Chinese and get 20 corrections in 3 minutes, versus if I post something in German, I would get maybe 1 correction in 24 hours. It's insane. So for that reason, I have to listen a lot more. I have to constantly find ways to speak it with people, whether that's taking lessons or finding language partners, like I said. It's just kind of exhausting to not have it fall in your lap sometimes, because with Spanish, I know that I will always have opportunities to speak Spanish because it's a very popular language in the United States, and because we're hella close to a bunch of Spanish-speaking countries, so I can travel to those more easily than traveling to Germany, for example. And yeah, I kind of got the impression that it would be difficult to have contact with the language when I started, because people are like, oh, why are you learning German? Nobody speaks German except for Germans. And I was like, well, I don't know. Next thing, and probably the most disturbing of... Wait, where are my earrings? Shit, I always have my earrings. Hold on 1 minute. Okay, face tracking, got it. But like I was saying, maybe the most disturbing thing of all of these things that I would have liked to know before learning German is that anglicisms are so prevalent and so present everywhere in German. I swear to God, they will be like, oh, ich werde ein bisschen vor dem Meeting chillen. I'm like, why are we talking about meetings and chilling? Those are English words, those are not German words. And I understand anglicisms, and it's fine when there literally is no translation, or if it's like a trend term that originated in the United States or an English-speaking country in general. But sometimes I will overcomplicate things, and I will find like some super convoluted German way of saying things, and then the German person I'm talking with will just be like, oh, no, we just use this English word. And I'm like, well, my life. I was first introduced to this when my friend Svenja, hello Svenja, she told me that if you're in Germany and you're walking down the street, it will not say Verkauf on the little poster, it will say sale, an English word that they already have a word for. So definitely this is not one of those cases. So I think Denglish is very much a prevalent thing, and it is scary because as an English speaker, I feel like, and I personally do not want to contribute to normalizing so many anglicisms. It feels weird, and I know that that's how languages evolve, so you should just let it pass, but also it's weird because German was like the forefather of English, and now here we are full circle, and now like we own you guys? What's the deal? Anyways, a funny anecdote that I always talk about is the song Ice by Shirin David. She is a German pop star, rapper, singer, queen, and I would listen to this song on repeat all last summer, and it was so funny because 80% of the chorus is just English. Let me play it for you. Okay, here it is. What the f***? Okay, but let me just put that in perspective for y'all real quick. Ganz egal, ob Euro, Yen oder Dollar Sign. Sie sagen, time is money und ich habe unendlich Zeit. Mein bester Freund ist Geld. Moneybags sind die Vibes. Ja, ich habe, was ihnen gefällt. Bitch, ich mach money. So we're talking about money, time is money, dollar signs, vibes, bitch. And I'm just like, what? So when I heard this song for the first time last summer, I would always just like mumble through the German parts and be like, dollar sign, time is money. It's such a shame. Like, it is just, for me, it is such a shame. I feel guilty. It is not my fault that the world has globalized and that English has such a big role in, you know, like social media and like music, movies and all that stuff, but I still hate anglicisms so much. So without shame, I will always find an opportunity to like Deutschify it and find a different way to say it. That's just me, my philosophy as an English speaker, not to be fake deep, but is that even fake deep though? I feel like that's genuine. Okay, and so our penultimate point is that German people and German speakers in general often have perfect English, which is very intimidating if you do not have a perfect level yourself. And granted, German people know how difficult their language is, so they are generally very forgiving, but like it doesn't mean that I still don't feel like a peewee when they're talking about the meaning of life and Nietzsche, and I'm over here struggling to talk about my breakfast or something. This is like traumatizing to talk about, but you know, German is not a very common language for English native speakers to learn. Well, I don't know if that's a good statement, but generally German people are very appreciative when you're learning their language, so it's not a big deal. But like, can you not be so good at English for just 5 seconds? It's because, you know, English comes from German, so we're basically like the simpleton little brother, so we do not have that mutual privilege because it's basically like we're learning a hard version of our language and they're learning an easy, watered down version of their language. And that's tea. So we have finally arrived at the end of the video, and the last thing is that I wish I knew German was beautiful. I am 100% deadass. Like, people always told me, like, oh, Hinge, Dinge, Dergen, Schmetterling, when I was starting to learn German, and I was like, hey. And as difficult as German phonology is, because like the word Pflicht exists, when did that happen? It also is very beautiful. Like German has a very nice, bouncy nature, and it's just beautiful. And not only as a language, but it's also made my life more beautiful because of the experiences that I've gotten to have, because I speak German, because of people that I've met. And that's what language learning does in general, you know, not just with German, but I think people discredit German a lot of the time, and it gets a lot of shit. But I would just like to take the opportunity to say that it can be very beautiful if you give it a chance, and if you learn any other word than Schmetterling, sorry. It's very hard for me to like switch between pronunciations. Speaking of transformation, I would like to thank today's sponsor, who is Linguistics, and I'm gonna leave this up to future Elysse to tell you all about it. Take it away, Elysse, in the future. Thank you, past Elysse. Now that many of us are still in quarantine, we have a lot of people taking online language classes, which also comes with the people who think that language classes online are not as efficient as traditional language schools, which I think is baloney, because personally, I will take any opportunity to do something in my pajamas that I normally cannot. Now, for the last month or so, I've been keeping up with my German on Linguistics, which provides all the benefits of the aforementioned traditional language schools, plus so much more. You no longer have to travel to speak a language. That is a thing of the 20th century, and with Linguistics, the group classes average 3 to 4 people, the maximum is 5, so you no longer have to raise your hand for minutes on end to get the attention of the teacher, okay? You finally get the attention you deserve from the comfort of your bedroom, sofa, kitchen, bathtub. Probably not your bathtub. If you have clothes on, I'm sure they might be okay with it. And aside from that, it's all online, which is great for you because it means no matter your time zone, there's bound to be someone on the other side of the world ready to help you. So night owls and lunch break learners are definitely welcome. I know that a lot of language learning resources have reduced learning a new language down to like hailing a cab or ordering coffee, but that is old news, and frankly, I hate coffee. So the reason why I love Linguistics is that the teachers are all native speakers, so you can confidently, develop your personality from day one in business English, French, Spanish, or German. The way Linguistics works is guaranteed to help boost your fluency, and the prices start at just €8 per group class because they are a European company, but either way, there's not a lot to lose here. So, over 1,000 different classes to choose from and downloadable learning materials. It's a very simple but effective combo. Now, I've taken online classes with different platforms in the past, but Linguistics has been really kind of revolutionary for me because it really helps to have like a topic or a focus every single time and to have an experienced native speaker taking you through it. It has made like such a world of difference for me not to talk about the same boring things every time, but you do not have to take my word for it. You can go to their Instagram at lingoda_official. And aside from that, they have a super good reputation with Trustpilot. They work with Cambridge Assessment English. Like, I could go on for hours about like the legitness of all of it. But if you're interested, you can click the link down below to try the 370, which is 3 classes in 7 days for $0.00, my friend. And after that, you can use my voucher code, which is Elysse01, to get 20% off your first month with Lingoda. Back to you, past Elysse. Awesome. First sponsored video, huh? Feels weird, doesn't it? Thank you so much for watching this video. I had a lot of fun filming it, although my neighbor decided to test all of his power tools, and every plane ever decided to fly overhead. I hope that everybody is continuing to stay safe. You do not need to go to a restaurant. You do not need to go to the club unless you want to dance with Ms. Rona. I will see you guys soon, and have a nice day.